Hi, this is John. I'm going out with my friend on this motorbike to go and look at some farming operations in and around this town called Nalweyo. We're on the border, driving down a country road to look for some farmers and to see what they're doing. In this field here we've got pineapples. They're rather widely spaced, but you can see the pineapple starting to develop there. This homestead, there's quite a lot of cassava over there, a little bit of maize, some bananas in the background, the odd pawpaw tree. It's a Sunday morning, so things are pretty quiet. I think most people are still inside or have gone to church. There's some cassava and sweet potatoes intermixed here. The farmer here. Tell me your name.
My name is Fred.
Freddy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, nice to meet you. And this is your small farm?
Yes.
And what crops are you growing here?
What?
What have you got growing?
This is a pawpaw,
mango,
this is a
banana,
and the trees.
And the trees.
Yeah.
Cassava.
Cassava, yes.
And what do you call this one with the yam? Yam.
Yam.
Okay, yam.
Yeah.
And you've got some ducks as well. Huh? Ducks, yeah. Yeah. So, do you get enough food here? You have enough food? Yeah, so quite a mixed little farm, yeah. All sorts of crops, as you can see, growing. Some pineapple stuck in the middle there. Yeah, in this little lane we found a field of coffee. This is a pretty old plantation by the look of it, and fairly sparsely populated. A lot of areas without coffee and gaps, but it's busy flowering and berries almost ready for harvest. I'm told that coffee is very profitable here for these smallholder farmers, and it's a fairly easy crop in a way. They don't have to do a lot of work in it, except when it comes to harvesting. It is intercropped a little bit with bananas here and there. Yeah, so coffee is an important crop for these smallholder farmers. Here's a nice plantation of bananas and coffee. Again, it's a little bit widely spaced, I would have thought, but anyway, that's the way it is. I think they've cut out some things in here. Maybe there's more coffee at one time. The bananas and coffee growing together nicely in this field here. Coffee's got a really good color. I just wonder, okay, if you look down here, they've been putting the coffee skins down as a mulch around the coffee, so there's a little bit of management going into this field, and that's why I think the coffee is looking a lot greener and better, healthier than some of the other coffee I've seen. It's younger as well, starting to flower and put out its beans. So this is a nice looking area. They need to do something in between here. They've also made a kind of a contour in here to capture water, I guess. Yeah, you see that? So somebody's putting management into the field, and as we know, management working together with the environment and the crops that you're growing can make you productive. And then next to this coffee we've got a maize field. It's a monocropped maize field, not much intercropping in here. And as we know, maize is a high demand crop for nutrients, and you can see here this crop is not that exciting in terms of the color and the growth, so they're not going to get a lot out of this field. But it does show that in these monocrop situations without fertilizer, maize is not that productive. It's one of the problems with maize actually, that it is so nutrient demanding, and unless you find ways of growing it with manure, intercropping, green manuring, cover cropping and so on, you're not going to get much out of it growing in these acid soils that are pretty depleted when they're not managed in a regenerative manner. Here is a field that contains maize, where the maize is looking a little bit better. It's intercropped here with groundnuts, and there's some cassava in there. This is an open pollinated variety of maize. It is more sparsely planted, but the maize does look better, so it's likely that they'll get some cobs out of this maize. Maybe not a high yield, but they'll get something out of it. So there's cassava, maize, groundnuts, and in the background there they've planted on those heaps sweet potatoes, a couple of bananas, and here we have another little field, another farmer. There's coffee, bananas, cassava, maize, all interplanted here. The maize is very young. It's quite well into the season, so they'll need rain to go through into January if they're going to get anything out of this maize. And some yam. Here's a wetland area, and you can see the water flowing down this little river here, and some rice growing in the wetland area. One of the things that you don't find here often or in large numbers are cattle, but here I've come across a few grazing on the edge of the field here. I think most of the land is occupied by crops of one sort or another, but there are some people with some cattle. Hello, how are you? Yeah, very good. Are these your cattle? Good. How many have you got? How many? Okay. Good cattle? Yeah. Yeah. Cattle are next to a large field here that is owned by a seed company, where they're producing seed, hybrid maize seed, and you can see it's very well grown. The owner of the company was telling me that in the last 40 days they've had over 840 millimeters of rain. So it's extremely wet, the soils are saturated. They're pretty well drained soils, but they're still saturated. So for the maize to look like this after that amount of rain, it is amazing. and it's coming into flower. Just now the tassels will be out. So you can see that on a large scale with mechanization, fertilizer, herbicides, etc., they can grow very productive maize here. This seed company is one of the largest seed companies in Uganda, called Nalweyo Seeds. They produce a very good set of hybrids for farmers, and they have a big processing factory in the vicinity. So you can see the effect of the rain causing some erosion here on this roadway. But in the field itself, it's not so bad. This farmer uses conservation farming methods. So he leaves some residue on the soil surface, which is very good and helpful for retaining soil and water. Although retaining water at the moment is not a big issue. So there is some seed production taking place here in western Uganda. It's a very beautiful place, this. It's so green, so lush, virtually anything grows, provided you give it the management that it needs. It'll really be productive. Yeah, it's a real pearl of Africa, a real tropical environment. Very nice. One thing I find fascinating about the farming situations here is that when you look at the greenness and the productivity just in a biomass perspective, there are no or very limited external inputs applied in here. You know, no fertilizer, lime, manure. It's just an internal cyclical system. Of course, I think from the rain, there is a fair amount of nitrogen coming down into the system, but all the other nutrients are native and recycling. It's fascinating how that works. It's fascinating to see the kind of farming that these smallholder farmers do. There's a method of farming called syntropic farming, which was developed by a man by the name of Ernest Gusht in Brazil. And it basically is a system whereby you have a great diversity of crop plants, plantation plants, in close association with one another in various configurations, so that you have this dynamic system of time and space and structure. Well, when I look at a lot of the farming systems here in western Uganda with the smallholder farmers, it's essentially syntropic farming, although it's not called that. If you look at this little patch here that I've come across, you've got a whole range of plant species, food plant species in this little patch. So if we begin with down the bottom here, this lower layer, or the lower stratum, you've got pumpkins and tomatoes there. These are the tomatoes. Of course, there's a lot of other plants which are not directly food plants. Then you've got this middle layer of maize and cassava. Over here, these are cassava plants. And inside there's also sugar canes. And if we go in a little bit deeper, we have a chili plant here. And I'm not sure what this is. I think it's actually used as a green vegetable. I'm not sure. And then we've got an avocado pear tree. And over here, a pawpaw tree. And then a banana tree. So these are all in very close association. It's random in the way it's been set up here. It's very mixed. And one of the principles that they talk about in syntropic farming is that, or in nature, natural farming, is that you don't have competition. You only have cooperation and complementarity. And I think in a way this illustrates that. I mean, when you look at the density of this, most of these plants look fairly healthy, pretty good. And if you look at the ground cover here, all the mulch that's on the ground, all the lower stratum of plants which maybe are not food plants, but they're playing a role in this ecology and this system. And I'm fascinated by this because there's productivity here. There's going to be food created here in a very dense way. And here some of the soil has been dug up. It's really beautiful looking soil. So yeah, it's fascinating, and I think it's something that we can learn from in terms of a larger scale. And like the syntropic system is to sort of systematize it and make it more productive through applying management to the system. Well, there, I hope you enjoyed that little tour of farming here in western Uganda. It's really fascinating to see what they grow and how they grow it with so little inputs and on a very small area. Their farming operations, they have to be productive, they have to get as much food as they can on the little area of land, so they really mix up the crops. And so I'd just like to say thanks for watching and all the best. Cheers.